I am Suzanne Weller. I'm the co-president of the Seattle Ellevate chapter, and this event is co-hosted by Ellevate and RevelEleven, and I'm joined by my co-host, Joni. We're going to be talking all about the holidays tonight, putting the heart back in the holidays. And I don't know about you, but I could really use this right about now. And I'm really happy that we are getting together before December, just before December is starting, because we all know that December is pretty much the mad rush. So thank you so much for being here. And I'm going to actually transition it over to Joni so she can talk about RevelEleven.
So hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's just a pleasure to be back with Ellevate. So good to see you, and thank you for the invite. RevelEleven was started by myself and Monica Smith about almost 6 years ago. I can't believe how time flies. We started RevelEleven to have informative, timely, and fun events for women, both in person, like then, and on Zoom, like now. And we also hold retreats both locally and internationally as well. We like to think of RevelEleven as an adventure for your spirit.
I love that. Thank you so much. And that picture is making me want to get outside, even though it's freezing.
We thought it was very appropriate today.
Very appropriate today. And I am Suzanne Weller, as I said, the co-president of the Ellevate chapter of, well, Pacific Northwest. We sort of call ourselves Pacific Northwest, but we are sort of Seattle, Bellevue, Puget Sound, but we have members from Alaska, Portland. We really span the larger Northwest, Pacific Northwest. So we are basically a community of women plus. We are the largest community of women plus at work. We're a powerful coalition of ambitious, supportive people who make each other feel felt within community and make work more fulfilling. And in the Seattle chapter, we are really, committed to our mission, which is aspiring to remove internal and external barriers in the way women's personal and professional prosperity. We want to make sure that we can be a supportive, candid, powerful, and joyful community. So tonight, this is a combination of all of those things. And I would really make sure that we're underlining joyful in that. So if you want to find out more about some of our upcoming events, there's a link right there. All right.
A little bit more about tonight. This year we are bringing back the holidays with joy and meaning, because after 2 funky years, we have the ability to choose what we want to do now. It's a new time, and it's a new time that we explore the holidays in a meaningful way. Take some time right now to think about how we want to embrace the next month. I love that December 1st is tomorrow, like Suzanne said. So what if we did approach the holidays in a new way, one with intention, one that we could set forth with how we want to show up, how we want to be, and how we want to feel during this time of year? Suzanne?
Well, the one thing that really resonates with me is that this is the 5th year that we are partnering RevelEleven and Seattle Ellevate on our event. We've done different events where it's been like last year we did women in spirits, right? So it was women who were actually distillers and sommeliers, and we've done wine events over the years. We've done so many wonderful things. And that has become a ritual for me, a yearly ritual. And for the holidays, so much of it for me is about the meaning that comes behind it, because it's so easy to get caught up in the rush and to really forget about it. So, sorry.
Thank you.
Muting somebody. Thank you. But this is a time for us all to really come together and recognize each other and recognize our families and our rituals.
So I am so excited to welcome Magdalena Garcia. Over the years, we have talked many times about rituals and what that means to us, and how hearkening back to those family traditions are so meaningful. And yet we evolve and grow through the years. So those new celebrations are equally as important. Magdalena is here today and to talk more about rituals. Magdalena.
Hi, everybody. Great to see you. Great to be here. Thanks for having me come along. And yeah, there I am. And there's my bio. So it's, it's actually kind of cool to see that up there, because to me, that's what the holidays can do for us, is it is a stopping point. It is a moment of retreat, I would hope. That's not usually how it's pitched to us, but the holidays can be a moment when we take a look at who we've been and what's happened for us, to us, with us, and see what the next part of the journey we want it to be.
So Magdalena, I would encourage all of you to look at her website of Circles and Bridges and read her more about her story. It's so touching, and I have just loved her words of wisdom, and I'm so thrilled to talk more about ritual tonight. And so why do rituals bring us so much comfort, both those from the past and the new ones that are a part of us as well?
Yeah.
So meaningful.
Why? Like, why do we do what we do? We just actually finished watching This Is Us. I don't know if anyone watched This Is Us. And like that the whole thing was about like the turkey, the Thanksgiving rituals, and the hat, and things have to be served a certain way. And I've been really feeling into it for myself. Like, why now? Why this? What does it mean for me? And what I've been really discovering is, and the reason for that we're here, right? Putting the heart back in, is moving beyond the consumerism, moving beyond what we're supposed to do and the stress, to like, what are these parts of me? And rituals and the traditions around holiday time, whatever this holiday, the winter holidays might look like for you, like, embedded in each little tradition is a piece of me. It's the child in me. It's the teen in me. It's the young adult with her first apartment. It's the mother. It's the daughter. It's the niece. All these parts of me get to show up when I open that box up for the holidays, and I start pulling things out that remind me. I have a little Snoopy ornament that half of its feet are cut off, and it's like, what happened here? Well, it's from when I grew up in New Mexico, and my parents were really big college basketball fans, and we used to go to the basketball games. And somebody gave me an ornament when I was a kid. And when I hold that ornament up, I am transported back to that arena. I can hear the yelling. I can hear the cheering. I can taste the starburst that I got. That was my my little treat. And then all of that comes back to me. And so our traditions can become what reminds our bodies of these different parts of us. And, I don't know about you, but I'm always in the adult. I'm needing to be the adult, right? I'm needing to be thoughtful and responsible. And I have my very pretty white Christmas lights. I have my white twinkle lights hanging in the yard. But, when I pull these colorful things up, I found this like random thing just rolling around. It actually has a very particular feeling to me, the greens and the reds and the oranges. And my body actually then remembers the magic of being young. And as I look at them, and I turn off all the lights and I look at these lights, suddenly my eyes are wider and my mind is a little clearer of all the to-dos. And I can drop into a kind of a different state that, as I started with, is a place where I get to pause. And am I letting my inner child play? Am I following whimsy and magic and making opportunities to just do things just because, versus because I have to, or I should, or someone's relying on me and all the obligations? Every year I get to pull these back out and go, wow, where's my magic? Where is that for me?
Magdalena, that is so poignant. And it took me right back to the magic that my mom gave me as a kid and how I try to create that magic every year during the holidays, even for those who might, find the holidays hard, but that little piece of magic that's within us and that we go back to, we can create again and again and again. And it's a gift that it really keeps on giving this time of year.
Yeah, I'm really appreciating that you're pointing out how hard the holidays can be as well. When we've experienced loss, or holidays might not have always been all beautiful, right?
Right.
Families are getting together, things, when we get lots of people together and all kinds of things start happening and shaking up, and sometimes the holidays can actually feel really stressful. And there are certain things that I pull out related to the season that give me a different body reaction, that remind me of stress and arguments and those things. I may be ready in some years to reckon with what the shadow side of the holidays. And sometimes I just want to stay in the magic and the sweetness and stay on the light side. So I'm appreciating you.
I want to stay on the light side too, but I think it's so important to talk about that just a little bit. Let's talk about how we evolve as humans, as women through the years, and want to create this magic maybe in a new way, or add to those family traditions that are so important. How do you do that?
Yeah, I was thinking, somebody said something the other day, like the trappings, like the all the trappings, like trappings. But then you start to think about the word, like the trappings of the way it's supposed to be, right? The trappings, like we just did, had our Thanksgiving, and like it's gotta be this way. And like there were some things that we felt really trapped by that were not fun. And this was the first year, like I left 2 hours to set the table, 2 hours, which was basically the altar. This is the altar we are going to sit at together. The flowers, the candles, what's in the middle, the thing that's going to draw us together, that's going to draw our connection. I never have left that amount of time. It's something to do so we can get to the party, but slowing down and really, for me, feeling into the parts of the tradition that really speak to me and speak to me today, and not being trapped by the obligation or the two-dimensional the two-dimensionalness of a to-do list. I have to have this kind of food. I have to have this kind of this.
Well, speaking of that, I just want to add in to, we talked about this the other day when we spoke, but at our Thanksgiving, we don't do a normal turkey. We this year we had paella. We had seafood paella, and then we had a meat paella for the meat eaters. And then we had a little bit of this and that for people who do love the tradition of Thanksgiving, but we're not in that place that we have to have the turkey. We wanted to explore something different and more magical for the people who attended our Friendsgiving. So we had about 10 people there, and everyone was so excited by something different.
Oh, that's so well. The brain loves novelty. So as much as our body loves stability, right? And our brain loves novelty. So can we bring those two together in ways that will really serve us for this year? The holidays are for us. And really, that's I'm hoping that we keep moving in that direction. And so when we can be in the place of reverence for these traditions that remind us of certain parts of us, that in some ways we, get to be reminded of what it's was like to be a kid, and that little kid in us. And there might be parts then that we get to heal as a result, like, oh, wow, I just had a memory I didn't remember. That was maybe a little unpleasant. Okay, I get to work on that this year. Or, I had forgotten how lovely and beautiful that was. Oh, great. I get to take that celebration with me. But I think then, and if I could add just in what you're saying with your Thanksgiving, curiosity and flexibility.
Mhm.
Right?
Which
And
was so beautiful in its own right. Just to think, I mean, out of the box about a turkey. I mean, that's, it's a beautiful thing for us to do. And we've been doing this for several years now.
yeah, and I think, finding our way. And one thing that I've been really trying to do is follow my impulses for what I want to do at the holiday, which then leads to a more embodied experience. So like these lights, I actually now take them up and I plug them in next to my bed. And before I go to bed, I just have this like nothing fancy, nothing ceremonial. It's like just this light there. And I just love turning off the lights and looking at them. And it does something to my system, which is then the second thing that I have been thinking about is what am I really honoring this season? And what is being asked of me from this holiday? And what's being asked of me is calm and peace. And peace for my body means not running around. Peace in my body means when I give this gift to this person, I actually allow myself enough time to write them a beautiful note and really think about them. Peace means I might not be able to cook the tamales and the pozole and get the tree, and I might not be able to do all of those. I might not be able to do any of them, but I can sit down and write this letter because this year, I'm in honor at this holiday time of peace. That's what I'm bringing, and that's what I hope to offer the people around me with all these moments, so we don't get trapped in all that other stuff.
And I think it's so important to remember that. That's one thing that I'm going to take time tonight. I have time after this event this evening to really write an intention list for the next 31 days, because I want to know how I'm going to be feeling as I enter 2023. I don't want to overspend. I don't want to overdrink. I want to embrace the holidays with intention and meaning. And we'll be talking more about that throughout today. And I know, Magdalena, that you wanted to share a reading to us, and we'd love to hear that.
Sure. Yeah. So, as I host peace this holiday season, I will continue to ask myself, what does peace want from me? What will peace look like at this time? And one of those things is this flexibility and curiosity. And there's this book called I'm in Charge of Celebrations. It's by Bird Baylor. And it's a children's book, but like with any awesome children's book, it has a message that is fantastic for us. So I just wanted to share one page because it's something that I bring to my family every year. And it's something I share with lots of people, that ultimately we're in charge, right? Like we're in charge.
Let's bring that back. We're in charge of how we want to feel and be and enjoy, right?
We are in charge. Okay, so I'm just gonna you might not be able to see all my years of reading to kids like this. It's a little different online. Okay, so I'm just gonna read this page. Friend, I've saved my New Year celebration until last. Mine is a little different from the one most people have. It comes in the spring. To tell the truth, I never did feel like my New Year started January 1st. To me, that's just another winter day. I let my year begin when winter ends and morning light comes earlier, the way it should. That's when I feel like starting new. I wait until the white-winged doves are back from Mexico and wildflowers cover the hills and my favorite cactus blooms. It always makes me think I ought to bloom myself.
That is so beautiful. And let's all take that into December. We want to bloom ourselves. Magdalena, thank you for your words of wisdom and your grace. I'm just so taken by you every time we talk.
Thanks for having me, and great to see everybody.
Thank you so much for being here. So transitioning over to other rituals and those that take place in the kitchen, I would love to introduce Cynthia Nims. Hi, Cynthia. Thank you for joining us today. Cynthia is based here in Seattle, and she is a writer and cookbook author of more than 10 books, plus. And we are here to talk about recipes and the meaning of that tattered and torn recipe that you might have in your kitchen from your family. And, you know, Cynthia, I'm just going to let you take it from there.
Thank you so much, Jenny. Oh gosh, this is one of my all-time favorite subjects. Not only recipes and cooking, you know, that have been sort of part of my professional life for so long, but really the cooking and recipes that go back to my childhood. I had no idea I was going to end up being a food professional. I went to school to become an engineer, and you know, I don't know, I was going to have this fancy formal career, and then just happened to throw great dinner parties. And it ended up that the whole, you know, engineering thing didn't work out for me, but cooking did. And
engineering in a new way.
Yeah,
in the kitchen.
So cooking really got under my skin, and it has been an incredibly important part of my life, not just professionally as I started working on books and magazine projects, but over the years, you know how it is, as we age, we learn to appreciate certain things more and more than we did when we were younger. And this thing I'm going to show you is the most ridiculous looking thing, but you have no idea what a treasure chest this is to me. This is my mom's incredibly old, just beat up, held together with just love and wishes and some packing tape and cardboard. But in here, I feel like is my mom's sort of, you know, history, not just food and the recipes that are in here, which are clippings from, you know, magazines and newspapers and things from friends. But mine, at least I think a lot of folks did this, you know, when she was writing down a recipe, she would make a note about what year this was or what friend gave her the recipe. So I feel like it's also sort of a little timeline and treasure chest, just to connect me with my mom and our family's history every time I pick this up. I have been through this so many times, but in advance of this event, I picked up one more quiet Sunday morning and just took recipes out of every single section and saw sort of what came to mind as recipes that really, you know, connect me with my mom and part of my own history. Because you'll see there's occasions where, like, this is mom's original,
that's perfect,
handwritten beat up version, and then this is the high school version when I had my own. I was doing my own fancy recipe writing, you know, practicing, having my own section. So some of it is also generational. Like, again, this is my mom's, you can barely even read it, tattered cheese cookie recipe that she made for every single party, I think. And then, you know, again, this is when I, you know, transposed it to fancy little recipe cards for my own collection.
So Cynthia, I have a question. Cynthia, I have a question for you. So as you were going through the treasure chest, what did you learn about your mom this time? Because as we evolve, we're always learning more about our parents. And is there anything that you took away or had an aha moment about?
Well, I mean, I think maybe, I mean, I have so many ahas and I love going through it because I feel like I do see new things each time. I think this time I was a little more tuned into how much she tried to associate the recipe with, again, the person or the place where she got the recipe. And so I love that she made that connection. It wasn't just, oh, I got this recipe and I'll make it, you know, for my family. But when she made it then for her family, she was also connecting back to the friend that she got it from and where it was she got it. So I love that. that you're carrying every time you cook a recipe that you've gotten from someone, you're carrying through some gift that they gave you years back. And now I have that gift of her notes and what she has shared with me that I then can also carry forward. And it's on, like, I don't know, I just think this one is really hilarious. This isn't necessarily a holiday dish, but it's just a green rice. It's like a side dish you make. Up here it says 1961 Marie Cassidy, so that's who gave her this. It's a baked rice dish that has a bunch of green vegetables and herbs in it. It's kind of yummy. It's a nice side dish. On the bottom, it's got a note about TV trays, coffee maker, make the clam dip, and iron the tablecloths. So this was clearly going to be part of some lovely get together. And the thing that I love almost best is that it's on the back of an envelope in which she got her updated bridge,
Booklet. That's great.
thing. So this one little card has a lot of history packed into it, and I can imagine my mom entertaining. I can imagine my dad was in the Navy. My family, my parents did a lot of entertaining. They, traveling, and mom picked up a lot of these recipes from people that they met while, in various posts around. So I think that's part of what I find beautiful too, is that again, it's not just the dish, which itself can be really beautiful and delicious, but it's what that dish represents in history and friends and connections of the past too.
So after we talked about this idea about a year ago, I went up to my uncle's house to go through my aunt's recipes. And as I was looking at her handwriting, what I remembered was the first time that we cooked together, and it was down in Auburn on the Black Diamond Road. I mean, it's so vivid, right? And I was sitting up on her kitchen counter and she was cooking bacon. And I'm like, what is all that stuff in the bottom of the pan? And she goes, well, if you cook the bacon, then that makes the grease that we'll use for other things to cook. But that is really, truly my first memory of cooking with her. My mom did not cook, my grandma did, but my most vivid memories are those times with my aunt, and then sometimes with my grandma as well. But it brings back so many moments, just those moments that we harken back to, right?
One of the things I think that's kind of true too with cooking, it is true, depending on what kind of things you may have kept from your family, but I have this funny little booklet I found somewhere, I can't remember when. It's this little chafing dish booklet from when my mom got this chafing dish, and on the inside it says, mine is in the back bedroom. You can go get it and keep it and use it for yourself. And then, look what I have here is the actual old beat up chafing dish that my mom used for countless cocktail parties. And so there would be like Swedish meatballs in here or any number of things. But the thing that I love most is my family, they always made this chili con queso. Nothing fancy, but I've got mom's little recipe for chili con queso, which is just, onions and tomato and canned green chilies and stuff. And then you throw cheese in there and add some chips on the side. And to me, that reminds me of my parents' cocktail parties, as does these little cheese cookies, which, again, we evolve, right? Our cuisine evolves. We can keep the traditions, but evolve by using different ingredients, like not buying the little jars of spreadable cheese. So this cheese cookie calls for a small glass of sharp cheddar cheese. So I need to remake this and use butter instead of oleo, and just using grated cheddar. I mean, this is a recipe I would like to update, as I would this spiced Jello salad, which even when I saw this recipe a couple of weeks ago, I could see it and I could taste it. It calls for 2 packages of red Jello. It doesn't even matter what flavor, just that it's red, which I would probably again evolve that a little bit. It's got applesauce and warm spices and a little bit of pineapple and walnuts, but I can taste that, and I wouldn't make it again probably with the red Jello, but it's worth revisiting some of these things that might seem also a little dated, and bring them back to life and give them a little bit of a contemporary focus.
Cynthia, I want to read something that's in the chat. So this is from Shannon. It says, years ago, I gathered recipes from my recently deceased grandmother. My favorite were the recipes not labeled for, or not for company.
Oh my
Those
gosh.
were the dishes she would make for her 5 kids, but didn't consider them worthy for guests outside the home. I organized an entire chapter for the not for company designation. Isn't
my
that
gosh.
fabulous? What we
Yeah.
learn about our parents as we go,
Right.
and grandparents as we go back into the treasure
Yeah.
chests.
Exactly. Yeah. What occasion this was for, what prompted it, when not to and not to serve it, as you said. One thing I remember, and I loved finding this, for the longest time, I think one of the things about family traditions and these rituals and these beloved recipes is sometimes realizing that the thing you thought your mom created, or like that was just like magical. I mean, it is magical, the fact that she made it, but I thought it was my mom's like secret special recipe. And I make it, and it's it's cranberry orange relish that is on every single Thanksgiving table. And then one year I go through and I find it's just from the bag of Ocean Spray. You know, it's exactly the same recipe my mom made, but it doesn't make it any less special. The fact that this, this really super special cranberry orange relish my mom always made came from the bag. It still is a tradition. And I made it like last week. I will make it every single Thanksgiving. There are 1,000 fancier, more elegant, whatever cranberry relishes you could make for Thanksgiving, but I will never not make this really simple, straightforward cranberry orange relish because it just reminds me of my mom so very much.
Oh, Cynthia, that's terrific. Well, we have some other people who have some recipes and stories to share, and I'd like to pass it over to Suzanne. I want you to stay there because I want you to add into this conversation. So, and you can probably take me off during this time.
I love this so much. I mean, I'm very much a cooking nerd. For those of you that know me, I was actually in DC at the Smithsonian last week in Julia Child's kitchen. I was like, bowing down to the altar of Julia. So for me, cooking and recipes are so entrenched in who I am. And we would love to hear from a couple of you in the larger group, just as far as some of the stories that have, the recipes. Like, I know we have the submission that you can do for the recipes. If you haven't done that, please do that, because we'll be creating that e-cookbook, electronic cookbook, and all of you will get that next week. But we'd love to hear from a few of you about what are some of the recipes that you still make today, and what are the larger stories, and why are they so precious to you, and why are they special? So there's a couple people that I had talked to in advance about this, and you're willing to speak up, but if there's others that want to share, I welcome you to go ahead and do that now.
I'll share.
Please, Corey.
So I was inspired by Cynthia's treasure trove and ran and grabbed my 1971 copy of Greek Cooking for the Gods, which is magically held together like that.
Yep.
And every recipe that I've made a lot, you can tell because the book looks like that. This happens to be the page for the baklava, which I submitted to the what's going to happen with those? Is there going to be a cookbook?
We're making an electronic cookbook. We're gathering them all together, and we're going to send them out to all of you next week. So
cool.
please submit more.
Yeah, how fabulous. So the thing about this book is that it's got recipes like friends that I had when I was 10 wrote. It's got a recipe that when I used to be a lawyer in the 90s, it's written on my letterhead. That's for a dinner party I was going to throw. We were having tzatziki, chicken tzatziki, pita, dolmas, Greek potatoes, and baklava. So that would have been like, probably in 1999. And it's full of stuff like that. But what I was going to say is this is the only cookbook that I own that does not have colored pictures in it, because I can't cook unless I can see the pictures. But this particular cookbook I have had, this was my mother's. She's not Greek. My father is Greek. My mother was the wife of the Greek person. And so she, was required to learn how to cook Greek. And this was the book that she had. And, she got it in the 70s when it came out, and then it became mine. My mom and I learned to cook baklava together. I probably have been making it since I was, I don't even know how old, but we made it a couple times together, and then it became mine to make. And at first it was a, kind of an intimidating thing, but finally I got it down to where I can make it in an hour. And I now, unfortunately, I can't eat gluten, and I haven't found any gluten-free phyllo, but I still make baklava for other people, and it's become the thing I do at the holidays. So I'm making my annual baklava tomorrow. If anybody's interested in really giving it a try, I encourage you to do so. And if you are going to give it a try, please feel free to reach out to me, and I will send you more pictures that kind of help you understand what it is you're trying to do step by step. So good luck.
That's awesome, Corey. Thank you so much. And I love how you're talking about, like, it's your mom wasn't actually Greek, but then it was like, okay, you're in this family now. These are the sort of traditions that you take on. And my story, which I'll save to the end, is very specific regionally as well. So thank you so much for that great story. And I really want to make that recipe now, and I might be reaching out to you for some pictures. Any thoughts from you, Cynthia, on that?
Yeah, well, I love the thing that I love is seeing that cookbook and how it's now has other stuff in it, because I think that's the thing. I think it's hilarious that it is such a valuable place to turn for recipes, that it's where other recipes end up going to, or other notes about like every cook, my mom's like old Joy of Cooking has other recipes taped on the inside. It's like, it's not enough that the Joy of Cooking has tons of recipes, but let's put some more recipes in there too. So it spills out this love of food and cooking, and you just want all the things that matter to you to be in, a couple of easy places to go grab them. And I love that. And there's nothing better than the most spattered page in a cookbook to know that that's the page that everybody loves the most.
I remember I took an old recipe, and it was on a dot matrix printer I had cut out and pasted into a recipe book, and I splashed on it one year when I was cooking, and the next year it smeared and I couldn't read it anymore. And I was heartbroken because I didn't have another copy of the recipe. So I had to wing it.
Oh, well, I'm sure. Well, there you go. It's a good test. You've been cooking it for a while now. You've kind of made it your own, because you have sort of rewritten it in your own way after having done it for so long.
Yes, and I love to experiment, so all good for me. Who else would like to share a story?
I have one. Oh, sorry.
There you go.
I'll make it quick. The recipe you'll see in the book from me is my mom's very basic sugar cookies. And the thing about this recipe is it's very simple. You can make it in the food processor as far as the dough, but keeping it simple means you can really talk a lot and not screw up the whole time. So that's a time when we share stories, get caught up. And then, there's that wonderful fragrance of the buttery sugar fragrance that wafts through the house as it's baking. But these cookies are so addictive that, like, it seems like all the men in the family just like gobble them. We always end up having to hide, groups of them in different parts of the kitchen so that they aren't all eaten up by the guys. I don't know why that is. We have more self-control as women. I don't know, in our family. So that's always a kind of a funny, addictive story of our cookies. And the last thing is you'll see in the recipe that the word beat is used 5 times, about beating the ingredients and beat this and beat that. And, really it's not indicative of my childhood, I promise. But I do. My mother, the way she wrote that up, the beat word was used a lot. That's it. Thank you.
Actually, Lenora, I have a recipe that my aunt made. It was an oatmeal recipe, and it actually came from Quaker Oats. And it's the same exact story that you have. It's like, we go in, we make the cookies, and then they're all gone within 5 minutes because all the guys ate them.
That means they're good.
Yeah, but it's off the Quaker Oat box. So that was, that says a lot right there. I enhance it, as Cynthia said so eloquently.
My story is not actually about a recipe, but more about my mom's handwriting. I am immediately transported to her, just being in her presence. She lives on the other side of the world, and I have one of my favorite dessert recipes that she wrote out on just regular lined paper, and it's in a drawer in my kitchen. And every time I pull that drawer open, it almost takes my breath away because I forget it's in there. And I haven't seen her since pre-COVID. And there was a memory that popped up in my photos today. And the last time I saw her was December of 2019. And seeing her handwriting, and that's actually what I'm afraid of for future generations, because everything's so digital, is that if we don't kind of archive these things, that the beauty of handwriting is going to be lost, because it's actually so unique to each human being that I'm constantly walking around when my mother sends me a birthday card or Christmas card or something, and I'm just like, oh my God, did you see this? Like, it's beautiful. It's like, and it's just something that, yeah, the recipe's great, but it's actually more about the fact that my mom spent time, and I can picture her sitting at the table writing it out, and then she stuck it in the post and sent it to me. So
yeah, that is magical. I absolutely agree. I was thinking about that in preparation for this, and I don't want to sound like I'm 120 years old, but I really don't understand. I don't know what I would do without all these pieces of paper and and the notes and the thoughts that are shared. I mean, I love my New York Times cooking, little recipe box I can go to figure out a recipe for a dinner party or whatever it is, but that doesn't equate to as much treasure as is included in these cards and notes and cookbooks that have the notings on the side and stuff. So that makes my head kind of explode trying to imagine how future generations are going to have this degree of sort of emotional and visceral connection to the food that they're cooking and what it means to their sort of and all that. But let's think about how we're going to fix that another time, and for now enjoy these treasures that we have at hand for ourselves, and do what we can, I think, to then pass it on as well, right?
I so agree. And Corey, I love your note about, a couple of years ago, you started writing on the cookbook page your notes about the recipes you'd used. So you'd note the dates that you made it, who you made it for, and other notes. So it becomes like a journal. That's so beautiful. And that's exactly what you're talking about, Cynthia, right? It's and Stacy with your mom's handwriting too. I mean, like that physical incarnation, it's just something that you can't, you can't recapture it, or unless sometimes you can when you cook it and then when you eat it, right? Like that's where so many layers of connection come in. It's really beautiful.
Well, thank you both so much for sharing, and everyone in the chat, and all of the different stories. The one about the handwriting does take my breath away every single time I see my mom's handwriting. She passed 5.5 years ago. So it takes you back. So the next interview we were going to do was with the lovely Capriel Pence, who, as I mentioned, lives in Lake Forest Park and here in Seattle. And maybe some of you didn't hear this, but we had a storm here in Seattle. Some got a lot of snow. She was one of them. And she has no power, so she won't be able to join us tonight. But I'd love to put up the photo of her and a little bit more about her. She's a James Beard award-winning chef. She owns the Madison Cafe, which is fabulous if you haven't been there. And just lovely, lovely Madison Kitchen, sorry. She's just absolutely terrific. We've had her on several times, and she just wows us every single time she's on. So with that, Suzanne and I are going to wow you with her recipe, and I'd love for Cynthia to stay on here as well. She was so disappointed not to be able to join us today, but this will be in the recipe book that we're going to be sharing after the event. But this is a brand new recipe, so she doesn't even have photos of it. But Cynthia, do you want to take a little look at that and tell us your thoughts on the orange shortcakes with caramel pears?
Yes, I'm just glancing at it for the first time. So it looks like it is like a seasonal twist on strawberry shortcake, if I'm doing a quick interpretation correctly. So the orangey aromatic delicious addition to the shortcake part. Yeah, that's that looks really delicious. Caramel and pears can never, ever, ever go wrong.
Never.
I love the sound of it, of course, seasonal, delightful. And I think it's a reminder just how much room do we have to play with something as I was going to say traditional, and I don't, that makes it sound like completely stuck in amber, but you know, strawberry shortcake is a thing we're all familiar with. It's the shortcake, it's strawberries, maybe raspberries sometimes or whatever. We, you know, maybe don't think often enough about how you can really evolve and adapt to different seasons. So I love the sound of this very
And
much.
one of the things I asked her about, sorry, Suzanne, was like, how can we wow our guest with something simple? And this is what she came up with. Suzanne, do you want to talk about this recipe a little bit?
I mean, it looks amazing. When I read this earlier, I was starting to salivate, and I was actually literally looking to see if I had the ingredients
Me
on
too.
hand, with the exception of pears. But you know, I think that pears are such an underrated fruit. I think it's one of those things, especially when you poach them, when you cook them, they're so lovely. And you can do, I mean, talk about a wow factor. I mean, they are something that can be so easy to make, and people, you know, people are so impressed with them. So it's also, you know, it is a for company dish, if we want to go back to the idea
Right.
Company dish.
of having that recipe. So yeah, so it's very much about the wow. And yeah, I can't wait to make this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
a
me
good
too.
point though, also about how wow, but without it being like something that needs a lot of last minute attention, and you know, boy, everybody better be ready to eat this because it's coming out of the oven. So it looks like something that you can definitely do in advance as well. I would imagine, you know, the shortcakes can be done ahead. You know, the caramel, probably parts of this can be done ahead so that you also as the host can be relaxed and, you know, with your guests in, you know, in mind, body and spirit, you know, through the evening, and not so worried about, oh my gosh, I've got to get up and go finish that dessert and do the, you know, the thing, so that you can be there too. I think that's one of the key things about the best gatherings are when the guests can get the sense that the host is relaxed and enjoying themselves too. And I think that's an important thing to keep in mind in terms of keeping your own stress level down by maybe not, you know, feeling like you have to cook every single course from scratch. Maybe you do get some shortcuts, get a charcuterie plate from somewhere and call that good, and then just work on a couple of other courses. I think being kind and gentle with ourselves in terms of our own expectations of how much time we have, how much time we have in advance to do things, is really good. And choosing a dessert like this is really a delightful option because parts of it can be done ahead and it can be assembled, you know, quickly, and it doesn't take the host away from the gathering much at all, which I think is beautiful.
I love that, Cynthia. Thank you so much for sharing. And I think it's important to remember that we are in charge and we can decide what we're going to make so that we are going into each meal with ease and grace. I would love for people to share in the chat that any holiday favorite that you have that you'll be serving, and then send that to us and make sure that you do that. I know that the location to send your recipes is in the chat there as well.
And thanks, Anne, for the note that oranges and pears are on sale at Safeway. That's for coupon. With a coupon. Woo-hoo.
That's terrific. And one more time, Shelley just put in where to submit your recipe, and we will be sending that out next week. I can't wait to get it. I think there will be a couple things on my holiday dinner table this year from this recipe book.
Yeah, I was so thrilled to see, because, you know, we have the behind the scenes access, and I was already peeking at some of the recipes, and I did put a recipe in there. It was not, so it's a recipe that is a family recipe. My family is English, and I put in a rhubarb crumble recipe. So if you, spoiler alert, get ready. One of my favorites, I have very vivid memories of being a child, visiting my grandmother in England and eating it in her back garden. But the recipe that I did not include was for fruitcake, because a lot of people do not like fruitcake. I grew up with it. Obviously, my family is English. I love this recipe because my grandmother created it during the war, so foods were rationed. So it's a very precious recipe to me because she created it based on what she actually was able to get at the time. So when I will make it, I'll make the old school recipe, which soaks in booze in a container for a month, by the way. And then I'll make my modern version of it with fresher fruit and some other things just to lighten it up. So that's one of my stories that, you know, I see that there's some love of fruitcake. I didn't include it because I didn't want to take it with you there. But anyway,
Natalia
it's a very
is
special
also
thing.
English, and she
Oh,
loves
Natalia.
it. And I have bad memories about fruitcake. So there you go.
Most people do.
Cynthia, what about you?
Oh, in terms of, sorry, what I'm cooking?
In terms of fruitcake, what's your,
Oh, well, I think good fruitcake is very, very good. I would totally be 100% behind a homemade fruitcake in a heartbeat. I think it's more scary, the ones that are in tins and you have no idea how long they've been passed around.
I think that's my memory is from the tins.
I mean, I think if it's like and if it's a product that you're just not, but I would say any homemade fruitcake, I would be all over that. And I haven't ever made it myself. I don't have a lot of familiarity with the recipe. I know there's a lot of versions. I just have never made it myself. I leave that to folks who know it well. And I would absolutely have a slice of anyone's homemade fruitcake.
Okay, Suzanne. Thank you, Cynthia, so much for joining us. And I'm sure you'll be with us through this next piece that we're going to do, but we're going to do some breakouts, I believe.
Thanks. It was great fun, Joni. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. Such so lovely. And I wish that I actually had that old archive like that. I mean, the physicality of it, and I actually love that it's just taped together. That's a story unto itself. Thank you. So every year when we do this, we love talking about food and wine. Last year we did chocolate, and we always want to make sure that we give people an opportunity to network. This is always a great opportunity for people to meet, and we want it to be casual in nature. So we are going to put you in a breakout. So just heads up on all of that. And we would love for you to talk about recipes. We want to hear, we want to give you the opportunity to talk about who you are, but really bond over exactly everything that we've been talking about. We would love for you to share what is your favorite holiday tradition and what food or recipe are you most looking forward to this season. So we put that in the chat, so it's there, so you can reference that when you go into your room, and you're going to spend 10 minutes just chatting and wow.
Where's Deborah?
Well, it was really nice to meet some people one-on-one. It was lovely. Thank you.
So wonderful. And I learned different holiday traditions, and I also learned the possibility of doing chicken in a pancake. So that's going to be my takeaway for
Perfect.
Yeah, what I might cook next. So thank you, Anne and Catherine. It was really nice to meet you both. So
And
we want to.
you.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, are there any other recipes that anybody wants to share, either verbally really quickly or in chat? Just something that you can't wait to try, or something that you were like, interesting. Anyone? Bueller?
While someone's typing, I can share there is a generations old cookie that my mother-in-law makes that are called icebox cookies, and we used to get them delivered to us because we all lived close by for the holidays, and she has since attempted to ship these cookies many years in a row, and for anybody familiar with it, it's very thin and wafery. And so it does not make it in the mail. It comes as basically a box of dust and a Tupperware container that I then have to figure out how to return to my mother-in-law. So we're going to see them this weekend. So I'm anticipating being expected to then bring this box home on an airplane and prove that it made it intact. So I'll keep everybody posted on how that goes.
Please. Okay.
I love that.
I love that too. Love all the stories. So many fabulous ones.
I know. All right. So
I'll share something really briefly. The cookies story made me think of, I just did a FaceTime with my family before this, and it's my dad's birthday, and they were having some cookies and some cake. And I said, well, what are those cookies? And they're disaster cookies. And apparently it's a recipe that my mom was following. And I don't know what happened, but they didn't turn out the way she thought. And my nephew called them disaster cookies. Well, she keeps making them. They're disaster cookies. They love them. I've asked for the recipe. I don't know what it is, but I just thought it was funny that she still makes them and they're called disaster cookies.
Okay, Natalia, you have to send that in so that we can put that in the cookbook.
Yeah, I have no idea what's involved.
Who cares? It has to go in there.
Okay.
My kitchen needs some disaster, as does my stomach. So, there you go.
That's so funny.
All right.
So
I'm gonna,
go ahead.
Jody.
No, good. Well, I was just going to say, Juno definitely wants to be a part of this conversation. So he wants to say hello. This is Juno. Sorry for the interruption, but he's been very insistent.
Like, what are you doing, Mom?
I do know.
Cookies?
Okay,
Do you make homemade treats for him?
do I make homemade treats? No, I do not.
Yeah, all right. Just thinking.
Maybe you could send one in for the dogs.
Okay.
There's
Okay,
the
so
dog.
I'm going to share my dog. This is Bacon.
Aw.
Hi, Bacon. Oh, that's very appropriate,
So
Suzanne.
yes. Anyway, there we go.
Okay.
The dog love.
So much dog love.
So we'd love to transition and wrap up with talking about some holiday gift ideas. So, one of the things that we are obviously very passionate about is women-owned businesses and also sustainable gifts. So we put together some of our personal favorites to share with all of you. If you're looking for some new things, some new gift ideas, maybe some of them are for you. Maybe it's a personal gift that you actually want to gift yourself. So there's a number of them here. Do you want to go ahead, Jody, and speak to the ones that are on here that you added?
I would love to. So first of all, sea, wind, and fog. I light this candle every day, and I light it with intention and around abundance and confidence and so many other things. It's made by a local Seattle, Juno is really being insistent right now, a local Seattle essential worker. And this is her side gig. And she has just beautiful little packaging. This one is teak wood, so you can see it here. And it's just a nice heavyweight glass. And you can go onto her site and see a bunch of different smells that she has and fragrances. They're just fabulous. I can't say enough. And they're soy based, so they're sustainable. And then also I wanted to point out a Brook and Bowl wine. And the reason to here are 2 bottles of Ashley Trout's wines. And the reason why I chose this is she's based in Walla Walla, and she does beautiful, beautiful wines that you will enjoy deeply. But in addition to Brook and Bowl, she also created a wine called Vital. And she started that organization to have all the different winemakers in Walla Walla donate product to her. And then she created this this brand called Vital. And the monies are given to farm workers and healthcare in Walla Walla. It totally touched my heart. We went to visit her during a wine tour, Women in Wine tour last year. We all have girl crushes on her. She's absolutely fabulous. And I can't say enough, not only about her wine, Vital, but her mission and intention around those 2 brands. So those are 2 of my top ones. How about you, Suzanne?
So there's a number here that I love so much. I also put my favorite local candle company on here, which is Noir Luxe. So this is a Black woman-owned business, and she also does soy-based candles. She also has a candle bar, like or boutique, that you can do events, and she also does classes and other things. And she's located in Ballard. So, and she has really wonderful
something in my hood.
Yep, there you go. She has wonderful scents. I am actually giving a number of them away. I gave some away over to my family over Thanksgiving. She's one called Cinnabay, which is a really beautiful cinnamon candle, and one called Sweater Weather, which is just, I mean, they're beautiful names and they're beautiful scents. So really, really love it. And also another favorite of mine is Parker Clay. And Parker Clay is a company where they actually, all of the bags and leather goods are manufactured in Ethiopia. And they're manufactured in Ethiopia by women that are former sex workers. Like basically it's to stop human trafficking, sex trafficking, making sure that they're giving work and actually, using leather from some of the most beautiful leather in the world that is locally created. So it's a wonderful company and gorgeous bags. I own a couple of them, highly, highly recommend and love that too. So those are two of my favorites, but there's other ones on here and we'll send this out. There's also in the chat, you'll see there's a link to the document. Feel free to go in there and there's links to all of their websites. So.
And I just wanted to mention that Monica from RevelEleven did the body care there. And then also Dirty Girl Gaiters. We do a lot of hiking together and those are absolutely fabulous. And you can read more about that on Dirty Girl Gaiters. One thing I like about Dirty Girl is they're feminine and fun and colorful, and Monica gets people, we've put pictures online. It's like, where do I get those gaiters? We're like, Dirty Girl, go to Dirty Girl. So there you go.
I got to admit, I had no idea what gaiters were until we did this. So I was like, oh, this is really cool.
Well, you need to come hiking with us, Suzanne.
All right. Well, we live so close to each other.
Yeah.
And I'll do one quick shout out, the Tiny Closet. Tiny Closet is a woman-owned business in Los Angeles. She does all of her clothes basically to order, and it's all with dead fabric. And what that means is it's fabric that the designers have not used. It's all sort of leftover remnants. So really, really beautiful clothing. I definitely recommend that you check that out for other people or for yourself. So, so check out the link that's there in the chat. We can also put that in the email maybe that we send out follow up, but hope this gives you some good ideas for shopping, and we love that we get to share these with you. And if you have other ones that you want to share, go ahead and put them in the chat right now before we wrap. That's just a really nice way to be able to add more.
Please, I think it's so important to spend your money on and support women-owned businesses and do a little bit of research before you buy, because there's so many phenomenal women out there doing great things in the world. So it's near and dear, I know, to all of us.
So near and dear. All right.
So with that, I wanted to go back to something that Magdalena spoke about earlier, which is bringing more meaning into our gift giving. And I want to talk about two things. And one is another woman-owned business. Of course, Glassy Baby is right here in the Seattle area. But I want to talk about if, when you give a gift like this, it could be a Glassy Baby or something else. But I thought that this was just really appropriate. So this candle here, its name is Kindness. So each candle that she has is named at the bottom. And I have this one, I have another one. This one's called here. This one's called True Love. And each one of them has a little note. So on the Kindness one, it says, when there is no obligation, nor even a request for help, but you offer it just the same, that's pure. Isn't that beautiful? So what I did is I might write this note to someone that I would give the kindness candle to. As I reflect on this past year, I want to thank you as my BFF for your kindness and love. Thank you for always being there for me. Taking in our life walks and talks around Green Lake, the texts of "you are great" when you knew I was down. And there's just so much more. Just thank you for being you. I love you, Joni. And so even writing this, it meant so much more to me as I thought about this gift and what it would mean to whomever I gave it to. And I've really been thoughtful about my gifts this year. And I've been doing this for quite some time. And it just brings back the magic, as Magdalena was mentioning before, that magic of something so meaningful that you're going to remember it for a long time. And so we wanted to leave you with that message tonight as you embark on the next month, and to really be intentional about these moments, about this time, about the spirit of this season, and just welcome it with open arms on your terms, with meaning and with intention. And thank you so much for being here today.
That was really beautiful, Johnny. Thank you for that. And thank you, Magdalena, for starting us off on such an intentional and just heartfelt note. And it's amazing all of the things that can bring us joy that we sort of forget. And I think especially the holidays. And I love the idea of the table as the new altar. And thank you so much, Cynthia, for sharing those recipes and for really, I mean, I love the full circle of like the handwritten recipes and then the handwritten note. So really, really beautiful. Thank you all of you for being here, for your stories, for your recipes as well.